Well, thank you, Mrs. Gerdap, for this invitation. I'm very honored to be on this panel with veteran journalists and scholars. Of course, as a Turk, I'm very saddened by what's happening in Turkey, but I'm proud of you, Advocates of Silence Turkey. Even the name of your foundation actually speaks so much about the current state of affairs in our country. But of course, as a Turk, we're not very proud of the situation there. Well, by first gradually buying or indirectly controlling newspapers and TV networks, then by scaring others with political pressure and deprivation of financial resources, right? Then, of course, unlawfully taking them over by assigning trustees and finally shutting them all down, arresting their staff. The Turkish regime, of course, has silenced all critical voices. And even though they may not be directly opposed or critically engaged with the government, like the publishing house I used to work for, where it was one of the biggest publishing houses in Turkey, Kaynak, and we did not publish any political content, let alone even current affairs, but it was mostly, as my little bio showed, mostly books on religion, interfaith dialogue, and cultural affairs. But sadly, since we don't have much time, I'm passing very quickly. The very sad thing about Turkey, let me show how the Time magazine listed last week that Turkey actually lists the top. Let me see where this is. All right. I hope you're seeing my slideshow here. Turkey, Time magazine listed Turkey as the top urgent case, citing Ahmet Altan. But of course, we're all very sad for Altan, and we really hope he will be released very soon. But what is really missing in this photograph is books like these and the authors of these publications. I hope the image is visible there. These are all our publications. All of them are either prayer books, the saintly figures of Islamic history, and great figures like Bediüzzaman, who wrote all the time on Quranic tafsir. So this is a terrorist operation, and what the police has found as evidence for terrorism. I think all the Muslims around the world who are now praising the Turkish government really need to look into this image and think, say, second time. There are other cases. All of these books are on Islam and religion, nothing related with political affairs. And what ended up with after the coup attempt was raiding of bookstores, which were actually selling these copies of the Holy Quran, tafsir commentaries, hadith books by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And as you can see, they're on top of desks and throwing away books like the Quran copies. I don't know, the world history has a lot of incidents like these, but probably what happened after the fake coup attempt in July 2016 is only comparable to what the Mongolian invasion did in Baghdad, in other centers of learning in Central Asia, where the rivers were flowing, the story goes, with ink and blood. Perhaps millions of copies of books were destroyed. I once tried to help a fellow colleague and editor from Turkey as an interpreter for his asylum interview. And he was one of the editors who edited books on Quran and Islam. And he said how he had to destroy these copies after the coup attempt, for they were considered as evidence for terrorism charges, that he put them all in the bathtub, watered them first, and then tore them apart one by one. And as he was telling these, he was crying, I was crying, and this young officer lady was handing out as handkerchiefs. Well, I wanted to give you also the example of Ali Unal. We were working for the same company with him, And these are some of the books he translated and edited and actually compiled. He's an author of perhaps 30, 40 books, a volume which we cannot even imagine. I actually brought some here so that you can actually see the size of the books that he contributed to Islamic studies. He's now in jail. He was sentenced to 19 years for some of the columns he wrote for Zaman newspapers, leaving behind this sick girl, daughter of him, who's very much dependent of him. I knew because his office was very close to our office building, his home, and we saw how she was so dependent on him. Again, we need to realize, as other speakers mentioned very briefly, this is a pattern happening throughout the history of Turkish Republic. So it's not unique only to this government, but what they did best was to really integrate their religious hypocrisy to the already present powers of the deep state, so that they could actually reap off from the resources of the government and state. So I want you to look at these images of ladies. Never in the history of secular Turkey this many amount of practicing Muslims, devout women and mothers were jailed and oppressed. Again, I'm not singling out this government for all these oppressions, for there's a history of oppression in the Republic. And all these headscarfed women were already being persecuted and undermined in previous regime, the ancien regime of the Turkish Republic. But now the figures have gone up so high, tens of thousands of those now jailed with their babies. As you can see, this poor child there entering a prison with her mother. So, well, as I know, we only have 2 minutes left. I'll respect I'll give my respects to the, of course, next panel. But let me just briefly say that this is not the blame on Islam per se. This is an opportunist government working like a cartel with and no ashamed of posing with mafia leaders and trying to take their share from the resources of the state. This has nothing to do with the Islamic faith, and they have no intention really to represent it. They would do so with any other ideology as long as it benefited their own services. So my magazine, the magazine I work for, this is on science and cultural affairs. When you open it, you would find articles on how plants do not develop cancer. How do ants know trigonometry? But this is banned in Turkey. There's no more words. Let me finish it here. Maybe one thing I could also share, 2 copies of The Fountain. This is published in America, the same issue. As you can read the title, Muslims Must Combat the Extremist Cancer. But when our company was taken over in Turkey, it was removed by the trustee, simply because it was authored by Fethullah Gulen. I think this is also very telling how the Turkish government approaches extremists, as opposed to how those people they consider and label as terrorists approach to extremism. Let me finish here. And again, it's been a pleasure being on this panel. If there are any questions you would like me to address, I'm here for you.
Thank you. Could you please stop sharing your screen so all the speakers could be seen?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I had actually lots of questions, but because of the timing, we had really amazing topics, hot topics, because freedom of speech, freedom of expression has been the first step to silence people. So it was really hot today to discuss these issues. Thank you for joining us today, and special, shout out to our translator today, Mr. Saymaz, and thank you for fostering human rights, championing human rights in your lives, in all the platforms that you are trying to do. And our second panel will be in half an hour. Please don't go anywhere. We are going to be here in half an hour. Thank you again for all your efforts and for joining us today.
Thank you very much.